Here I go, here I go, here I go. Yeah, here I go, here I go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Take. I'm your host, Jackson Burleson, and today's episode, woo! It's 4th of July, everybody. Happy Independence Day. Let's get into it. So, JB's Picks, brought to you by Hard Rock Bets, the only betting app you can use in the state of Florida. Use bet prompts such as money lines, spreads, player prompts, you name it. Hard Rock Bets has it. Download it today for free. Now let's get into my picks. So my picks are minus 110 for Jeffrey Epster to win the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. Esper has finished second to Joey Chestnut the past 3 years, including last year where Joey Chestnut bested Esper 62-49 hot dogs. Now, Major League Eating announced Joey Chestnut would not participate this year because of his partnership with Impossible Foods, which sells plant-based dogs. Chestnut is a 16-time champion at Coney Island, so just keep an eye on that going into the hot dog eating contest. To me, I think let Joey Chestnut do his thing. This contest only happens once a year. He's an absolute dog, but this is a good opportunity for other competitors to win because Joey Chestnut has won 16 times. Like, dude, this guy has owned the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. He's owned it. Absolutely owned it, dude. And I'm just like, okay, when is this gonna stop? And first of all, I don't know how these guys eat all these hot dogs, get the bun wet, and then just don't even chew. They don't even chew. The hot dog, they just put it in there. I'm like, what the heck? What the heck? Like, that is insane. I would vomit. I would choke, personally. But that's my pick of the week. So go on Hard Rock Bets and make that bet for Jeffrey Epster. So the Celtics are being put up for sale. This is insane. I don't think any professional franchise like the Celtics in sports has won a championship and then went and put the team up for sale. That's insane, dude. Like, that's like the Dallas Cowboys winning a Super Bowl and then Jerry selling the team 2 weeks later. Like, that is just very weird to me. But Forbes estimates the Celtics are worth $4.7 billion, which is the fourth most valuable team in the league. But I would expect the Celtics to sell for at least $5 billion, especially after a championship. This franchise is so incredibly valuable. And Wyke Grousbeck bought the team in 2002 for $360 million. So he's getting a 12 times rate of return by selling the Celtics right now. The Celtics? Like, I like that. I like that. And I think it's funny because I'm a little bit of a Celtics hater, if you guys couldn't tell. Heat Nation right here, we got our jersey, of course. We got the flag in the back. But I think it's just interesting because the ownership announced that they would be parting ways and selling because they want estate and family planning consideration. Whatever that means, I just think it's weird. The deal is going to be official by 2028, so that's when the deal will be done, it will be finished and sealed. Now, Grousbeck will still be the team governor while all this stuff is happening because there will be negotiations 2025, 2026 to get this deal like set, sealed, and delivered, but he will still be involved with basketball operations and still being around the team and still have control. So that's there. But another crazy part, since the Celtics are all about money right now, they're making the big bucks over here, especially the majority owner, but the Celtics starting five, like with all their contracts combined, they are worth $938 million. That is the richest starting five ever. Like, that's great. Okay, so you've got Jason Tatum, who signed a 5-year, $314 million deal, which, by the way, is the richest contract in NBA history. Then you've got Jaylen Brown, who signed for $303 million last year. Porzingis is making $60 million. Holiday's making $135, and Derek White's making $125 million. Now, this is not for each year. This is spread out between a couple of years. So for Tatum, 5 years. Brown, 5 years. Porzingis is on a 2-year deal with $60 million. Holiday, 4 years. White, 4 years. So they're paying top dollar to these guys, but they are just, I can't believe that they're spending this much money. This is crazy. But for another championship, I mean, I'll take it. Honestly, if you're a Celtics fan, you'll take that. You'll take that. But there's been a lot of news, just NBA in general. Paul George, he left the Clippers. He left the Clippers after 5 years, 1 conference finals appearance, and will go back to the Eastern Conference where he originally was at with the Pacers to start his career, to pursue a championship with Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey. That creates a big 3 in Philly. Does this close the gap with the Celtics for the Sixers? It obviously does, but in my opinion, I think this is going to be a waste of time again for the Sixers. And I know they've been in the process for 10 years. They've been in the process. They've been in the process for 10 years. How does that happen? Joel Embiid is always injured. Okay? Joel Embiid hasn't played 70 games in his career. Paul George played 35% of his games while on the Clippers for 5 years. 35%. 35% of your games. That's bad. And then he gets a 4-year, $212 million max contract. After these injuries? I don't know. I'm still skeptical about the Sixers because on paper, we know what this team can do. They have a good roster. They drafted Jared McCain, which I actually like. They picked up Andre Drummond to get some depth on the center position. They have Kelly Oubre Jr., who's a good defender. They have some players. They did lose Nicholas Batum, but the Sixers are ready to win clearly. When you look at this roster, clearly they're ready to win. The problem is if they can stay healthy. That's the only asterisk I have with the Sixers. Other than that, good team. It's just that asterisk with the injuries right there. As for every team in the NBA, if you're healthy. But for the Sixers, I feel like for Paul George and Embiid, they have bigger asterisks on the injuries because they've just had so much injury history in their careers. It's been constant. Paul George, I mean, we all know he had a broken leg and then he came back. Wasn't really the same player, still was getting hurt all the time, especially on the Clippers. This guy is never healthy. Like I said, he played 35% of his games in 5 seasons. 5 seasons. I don't think you guys understand how bad that is. And the Clippers gave up so much to get Paul George to reunite with Kawhi Leonard in LA. Look, the Clippers gave up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is second in the MVP voting, could have arguably gotten MVP this year. Danilo Gallinari, 5 first-round picks, and then first-round pick swaps in 2023 and 2025. Just for Paul George. I'm serious. I think that trade might go down as the worst trade ever. Because the Clippers didn't win. They didn't even make the finals. That's so disappointing to me. So disappointing. In my opinion, I think the Clippers should just tear it up. Because Kawhi, he's damaged goods. You gave him an extension. Harden, you gave him an extension. And he is old and also requests a trade from every team. Basically, He's there for like one season, he's happy. And then in the second season, it's like, oh, this is not a good enough team for me to win. So there's nothing that you can do to please James Harden. So the Clippers are in a difficult situation right now. They did pick up Derrick Jones Jr. from the Mavericks, which hurts the Dallas Mavericks very badly. So let's get into the Dallas Mavericks, speaking of. So Klay Thompson, he left the Warriors after 4 championships in one of the greatest dynasties in basketball history. He leaves that. And there's a lot of speculation going around that Klay was jealous because Draymond got the money, which he was, I think. But he looked at that and said, okay, you're going to give Draymond 4 years, $100 million, and you won't even give me that kind of money. Now, I know Klay Thompson tore his ACL and Achilles, but he doesn't cause the problems that Draymond Green causes. Draymond Green punches teammates, gets suspended, misses games. Period. Not valuable at this current moment. Draymond, championships, the grittiness, the toughness he brought to the court, that's what the Warriors needed. But right now, the Warriors are in a heap of trouble because they didn't make any significant moves whatsoever. They got DeAnthony Melton, but that's not going to do anything. Steph Curry needs help. He's still in his prime, and he just lost his right-hand man in Klay Thompson. I never thought I was going to see the Splash Brothers break up. Ever. And it's not like Klay Thompson he had that one bad game. He can't play defense. He doesn't have that jab step going into a 3 because he lost that explosiveness. And also, he wasn't that athletic to begin with, but he's still a good shooter. He shot 39% from three-point range. Okay, that's not terrible. That's not terrible at all. That's not bad. I just think Klay gets a bad knock because of just how his career's unfolded, because he's not the player he once was. And that's what I think everyone expects him to be still. But Klay Thompson going to the Mavericks, I think, would have made the Mavericks better if they kept Derrick Jones Jr. because they lost defense, which they were struggling in already. And then you go get Klay Thompson, who can't guard, but does give you shooting, but can't guard. So a starting lineup with, let's say, Luka, Kyrie, Klay Thompson. Okay, before I even name the 2 other people in the starting lineup, which would be PJ or Daniel Gafford, you already got 3 out of the 5 guys on the floor that can't play defense. And they're liabilities for their team. Kyrie, he's at the end of his career. He is not in his prime. Luka is in his prime, but he's still trying to improve that defensive side of the game for him. So 3 years, $50 million. Klay Thompson is going to the Dallas Mavericks. It'll be interesting to see how Klay Thompson fits in with that team. I think it's a weird fit. I don't think it makes the Mavericks better, but I also don't think it makes the Mavericks like a guarantee to like compete for a Western Conference Finals spot. I don't think that guarantees them that. I still think they have a lot of work to do. They can get there. I just think they're going to have to pick up somebody else that can play defense, make a trade at the trade deadline. Who knows what can happen? It's July 4th, for crying out loud. There's a lot of things that could happen. But let's move on to the segment called Shot of the Week. We have a little bit of a different Shot of the Week for you guys this week because I had to put this out here. Team USA loses in heartbreaking fashion 1-0 to Uruguay. And the shot of the week, even though it's devastating for United States people to say this, in the 66th minute, Uruguay went in front on the goal and they scored. But it seemed like it was an offsides, but the referees did not overturn the call, and there was literally like so much confusion of like why that wasn't overturned. And then also there was a yellow card that was shown in the 32nd minute when the ref showed the defender on the US team the yellow card and then allowed Uruguay to play on. The US saved it, but it was just we don't usually talk soccer on this podcast, but it was just very weird because one, I feel like the US just had the worst referee ever. Oh, yeah. The guy's name, he's from Peru. His name is Kevin Ortega. And he's been a referee since 2015. But he gained his FIFA status in 2019. So this opened up the opportunity for him to referee games at the international level. So the shot of the week, I'll say Uruguay scoring on an offside against the United States because, one, I really wanted an excuse to talk about soccer, and two, the U.S. is pathetic at soccer. Pathetic. You know how many times we had so many opportunities to win, and we didn't. Our players would get the ball and just stare at it. We would be so hesitant to shoot the ball. Just shoot it. Kick it. Kick it. We were so hesitant. We could get all the passes. We could do everything in our power to get the ball in position for a goal and get a player in position, and we just collapsed. We just collapsed. And I don't know if we should fire the coach or what we should do, but Team USA, that was sad. That was sad. We don't even make it out of the group stage for the Copa America Cup. Like, come on. What are we doing? What are we doing? But that's shot of the week, honestly, / failure of the week, but I'll give Uruguay their goal, okay? Like, I do have a Uruguay jersey in my closet, so I have a little bit of a connection with Uruguay. I remember we had some foreign exchange students when I was in high school from Uruguay, and they gave me a jersey. That was cool. I always remember that. I always remember those guys. Those guys are fast, man. I mean, those Uruguayans on the soccer field, I mean, they're quick. They're quick. Like, the entire time in that game, I was like, man, the U.S. really can't handle their speed right now. That was the difference maker to me, in my opinion. But it was tough to watch. It was tough to watch. And I never watched soccer. Never. But I watched it, and it was honestly very disappointing to watch. But let's move on to Mikal Bridges. This happened a little bit ago, but he got traded to the Knicks, and they gave up. They gave up a haul for this guy. The Knicks gave up Bojan Bogdanovic, 5 first-round picks, an unprotected pick swap in 2028, top 4 protected, second-round pick in 2025. Like, whoa. That's a lot for Mikal Bridges. Now, I know Mikal Bridges is a baller. He averaged 19 points a game last year. The year before that, he averaged 26 points a game. He's been in the playoffs. He's performed at the highest level. He was on the Suns when they made the finals. So he's played meaningful basketball, which I think the Knicks need. And I think the Knicks, to me, they're a good team. They lost Isaiah Hartenstein, which is a big piece, but they have Mitchell Robinson coming back. They also have Jalen Brunson. Julius Randle will be coming back from injury. So they've got some players, and they also re-signed OG Anunoby. So I like the Knicks right now. And you've now adding Mikal Bridges. You have 4 players on the Knicks who scored 40 points last season. Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, and Dante DiVincenzo. You got 4 players on the roster that scored 40. And the Knicks, I think, look, they're not the best team, like talent, like superstar-wise, but they are really well coached. Tom Thibodeau is a great head coach, very defensive-minded, and also the Villanova chemistry is going to immediately have an impact. Immediately. So I don't see an issue with Mikal Bridges going to the Knicks and them giving up those picks because the Knicks have a roster that's ready to win now. They also have Trey McBride that comes off the bench. So they have some pieces for a championship run. It's just a matter of health for the Knicks, I think. And Thibodeau not running this team to the ground, playing his starters like 48 minutes a game. You can't be doing that. You got to at least manage the season a little bit. But I like Mikal Bridges to the Knicks. I think it's a good move. I think it definitely puts the Knicks as a threat to the Celtics. I think the teams in the top 5 teams in the East next season are obviously number 1, the Celtics. Number 2, I'm going to go Sixers. Number 3, I'm going to go my Miami Heat. Number 4, New York Knicks. And then number 5, I'm going to go the Milwaukee Bucks. I know you guys are probably saying, oh, why are the Bucks so low? Like, Giannis, he needs to prove he can stay healthy for the playoffs. Dame, I don't like his defensive liabilities. I know he can score, but I don't like Damian Lillard's defensive style. It's just not good. He's not a good defender. And also Doc Rivers, he's a choke artist. He is a choke artist. He hasn't done anything since winning that championship in 2008 with the Celtics. He has done nothing. He has done nothing. So he needs to prove to me that he can be a head coach that can lead a team to the finals still. Or you're just wasting Giannis's time and Damian Lillard's time. And also Chris Middleton is getting older. So I think the Bucks are still a top 5 team in the East, but they still have a lot of question marks. They still have a lot of question marks. I feel like the 4 teams above them that I just named, they don't have as many question marks, in my opinion. Their teams are more established and they have better chemistry. That's just my opinion on that. But the Bucks are still a great team. They're still a great team. They still have a chance. I mean, Giannis, when healthy, is arguably the best player in the league. I'm going to say top 2 because I think Jokic is the best player in the league, but I'll put Giannis at 2 behind Jokic. But so we're kind of getting into like who won the offseason, who lost the offseason. Who won the offseason? Obviously, I think it's the Philadelphia 76ers. I think that's an easy answer. I do think that the Sixers getting Paul George is better than doing nothing, first of all. Because what Paul George does bring is scoring and defense. Oh, and also playoff experience, even though he's never been to the finals. But I think the Sixers, man, I mean, they just haven't had much success recently in the playoffs. That's a problem. Like, the Sixers haven't been to a conference finals since 2001. I wasn't even born yet. I wasn't even born. I wasn't even born. So you can just look at that and be like, that's insane. Second, Paul George hasn't been to a conference finals, or excuse me, he went to a conference finals once with the Clippers, so I'm not going to say that. But we all know that the Sixers last year, they were on a tear when Embiid got hurt. The Sixers, with Embiid and Maxey on the floor, were 31-11 last season together. That's a pretty big deal. And you take Embiid out for a huge chunk of the season. He was on his way to winning another MVP, in my opinion. So I think the Sixers healthy, they can contest Boston. I also think the Heat, they can contest Boston. I heard Zach LaVine is in the mix. DeMar DeRozan's in the mix. Whether we can get one of those 2 guys, I'm not sure where the chips fall on that. I'll also throw this out here as a possibility. If Trae Young, for some reason, wants out of Atlanta, I would love for the Heat to trade to get him. Package Hero, package Duncan Robinson, package a couple picks, and get Trae Young. Get us a point guard. That's what we need. That's what we need. DeMar DeRozan would be nice, but I don't think he's what we need for the Heat. I don't think that's what we need. But I think the Heat are still right there. We just weren't healthy last season. We weren't healthy last season. And I think we're the biggest threat. But Sixers getting Paul George, I've got to acknowledge that. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. So, man, NBA free agency is just going to keep going and going and going. I guarantee you when I drop this podcast, there's stuff is already going to be happening. So just bear with me here. I've got all the news you guys need. But in the next podcast, I think we're going to be doing some more NBA free agency stuff. And also in the future, NFL is going to be coming about. MLB, we're going to be trying to work on some podcasts in the next couple weeks. I'm sorry it took so long to get a podcast out. I've been really busy with school this past week. I've been trying to get used to my new classes. So I apologize for not dropping for a while, but enjoy your guys' 4th of July. I'm Jackson Burleson, and you guys have been listening to another episode of The Take.
Talk to me, baby. Talk to me nice.
I'm from another world, baby, yeah. Railway paradise. They think I'm way too cold, cause I put my heart up.